When I was in the police, there was a term that was used: join the force, get divorced. And this relates to shift work and relationships. Now, this video, we're going to talk about why relationships break down when it comes to shift work, and more importantly, how you can prevent them breaking down. When I was in the police, I saw a lot of people join the service and their relationship quickly broke down, and often they would start dating a colleague. But then there was also people who were in this service for years and years, and their relationship went from strength to strength. So I was able to identify a lot of key things which were happening in those relationships, one that failed and the one that succeeded. And in this video, we're going to go through exactly what you should be aware of if you are a shift worker, whether you are a paramedic, a emergency service worker, or maybe even a security guard, or you work in a hospital. And if you are the partner of a shift worker, what you can do to help keep that relationship nice and strong. If you are a shift worker and you want some free support, you can check out my 14 ways in 14 days for shift workers by scanning the QR code on screen right now, or clicking the link in the description of this video. It doesn't cost you anything, and for 14 days you will get a regular email each day with different bits of information from someone who's been there and done it for just under a decade to give you the best life possible. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is sleep. Now, lack of sleep makes you an arsehole. Why does lack of sleep make you an arsehole? Well, quite simply put, because when you haven't slept properly, you're more irritable, you are more argumentative, you're more stressed. Basically, a lot of the things which happen when you're asleep, a lot of your hormones, a lot of your regulators are all out of whack. In particular, if you are working a shift pattern, not necessarily working, say, permanent nights, for example, permanent nights would be better. But a lot of places now, they may do a week on, a week off, or a few days on nights, a few days on lates, a few days on a late turn, a few days on earlies. That changing and consistently messing about with your sleep cycle is actually a lot worse for you, but this really isn't the video for that. What I'm saying is, though, is that when you are swapping and changing and you are not able to sleep properly, your brain, quite simply put, your brain and your nervous system is all out of whack. It's not functioning properly. And there's also, during the day, there are things that we can do to allow ourselves to sleep best during the day. Because obviously when we get into bed, everyone else is waking up. So we are finding that we are short with our partners because we haven't had enough sleep. Our partners may want to do things during the day with us, but we're too tired to do something. This then can, of course, cause friction. Your eating schedule will be different because 9 o'clock in the morning to your partner is like 11 o'clock at night for you. So you might not necessarily want to go out and have dinner or have breakfast, or maybe have an evening meal. There's also the reset too. So, you know, your partner may want to go to bed at like 9 in the evening, but to 9 in the evening, that's like 8 in the morning for you because of how your circadian rhythm is and how your sleep schedule is. So there's all these different things as well. And also getting to sleep during the day can be difficult because it's daylight, people are around, the world is functioning. So that can disrupt your sleep as well. So with all the will in the world, we are working on hard mode when it comes to keeping a relationship functioning and keep a relationship happy and healthy, because it's so hard to make ourselves happy and healthy. Anyone will know that if they have been trying to maybe give up an addictive substance, or they are sleep deprived, or they are stressed with work, the emotions are a lot more chaotic and the mood is more heightened or lowered, depending obviously what's happening. So that is naturally going to play a role in your relationship. Now, okay, so we have the stress of sleep. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about how to actually mitigate this. And this is twofold. So if you are the person doing the work, then you need to prioritize sleep. Okay, so sleep is sacred. Okay, so sacred sleep. You need to make sure that you are looking after your sleep the best you possibly can. Stand by. Let me get another pen. So you need to make sure that you're looking after your sleep the best you can. And there's a few ways how you do this. There's a few ways so that you can prepare yourself, so preparing for sleep. So, oh my God, this is terrible, this one. Prep for sleep. And how you do that is you will prepare the room what you're going to sleep in. Okay, so you can potentially have blackout blinds to cancel out the sunlight, blackout blinds. Then there are other things such as eye masks. I used to really enjoy having an eye mask when I was working nights because sometimes the curtains can come open and you don't want that light in your face. And even if you are really tired, you have to create that darkness, because if you don't create that darkness, as soon as the light hits your eyes, your brain wants to wake up, because your brain is hardwired to be awake during the day, even if you've been up for like 10 to 12 hours and you've only been asleep for like half an hour. So an eye mask is incredibly important. There is also white noise too, so to block out the outside world. I either stick something on YouTube, just so white noise, black screen, or you can also have a fan. A fan is really useful too. So white noise or a fan to create that white noise, that blocking out of outside interference too. Then there's another one here, and I found this quite useful, a weighted blanket. Weighted blanket, so the extra feedback will allow you to sleep a little bit better. But what happens if you come into bed at like 3 in the morning? What happens if you walk in and it's 3, 4 in the morning, your partner's still in bed? Well, then what I would advise you do is potentially sleep in the spare room. On the days when you are coming in late, because you need to respect each other too. Your partner doesn't want to be woken up at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning when they need to be up at like 6 or 7. But equally, they can't be interfering with you when you are trying to sleep too. So what we have to realise is, if we don't want to be arguing, we don't want to be irritable with each other, and we want to have the most energy possible, the best energy levels possible for when we are not working and we're spending that time together, and even in the hours before or after a shift, we want to make sure that we are respecting each other. The person who's working the shifts needs to sleep, so it's not fair on the partner to go, I want to go out here, I want to go out there, I want to do this, that and the other, because it would be like your partner waking you up at 3 in the morning saying, I want to go shopping, I want to go see my friends. Just because they're sleeping during the day, if anything, it means they're getting worse sleep because they're not supposed to be asleep. So if they've had 4 hours sleep, it's probably the equivalent of about you having 2 at night. So we need to make sure that we are taking care of our partners. We need to make sure as shift workers we're looking after our sleep. We also need to make sure as partners of shift workers that we are allowing them the space, the time, in order to be able to have that sleep proper. So that's very quickly is the sleep. Sleep is sacred and you have to be able to look after your sleep. The next one is communication. Now this one is incredibly important, because if your partner can't talk to you about their problems, they're going to talk to other people. And this is where, quite naturally, if somebody feels neglected, they feel that they aren't speaking to their partner very much, and it is possible that they could start getting closer to perhaps a work colleague, and those relationships can form that way. I've seen it happen many, many times. People have issues in the household, people have issues with their partners. The person in the office gets it, they do the same kind of job, they're having similar issues too. And as a result of this relationship not working properly over here, it means that this one over here can start to blossom and begin to ferment. And we want to avoid that, because a shift worker needs to be healthy and happy because of the work what they do. And this is why I do have shift briefs. This is why I do have my community. This is why I do my courses, such as my Shift Survivor Guide, which you can get here from the link in my description as well. So this is why I have all this stuff, because I want shift workers, because of the incredible work what they do, such as our emergency service workers, our hospital workers, our security guards. Because of them, it makes the world a better place. So I want to make sure that they have a happy home, they have a happy life, they have a happy environment. Also, while I'm at it, I don't like the phrase happy wife, happy life. I don't like that. It should be happy house, happy spouse. But yeah, not happy spouse, happy house. You know what I'm saying. Okay, so the next one what we have is Communication. What colour pen should I use for communication, I hear you ask? Well, you know what? I'm going to go for orange. I bought these today. And I hope they're any good. I hope they're all right. It was a choice between these and another set. And my girlfriend, to be fair to her, said, you should get the other set. And I picked up them because there was loads. And they're not the best. They're good enough, but they're not the best. So maybe next time, you know, like we talk about communication, listen to your partner. Hey. Okay, so communication is essential and important. Oh, that looks all right, doesn't it? Communication. I'm left-handed and partially dyslexic, so you'll have to excuse me with my handwriting style. So, communication. What's the key thing here? The first one, and this ties back to sleep as well, is don't argue before a shift. Don't argue before a shift. Don't argue after a shift. Don't bring anything up too serious, especially in the middle of a set of shifts. And don't text. Don't argue over text. This is just good advice for anybody anyway. Don't argue over text. Like, something can wait, okay? If something really needs to be spoken about, it can wait. In the middle of a set of shifts, your partner or you are likely not thinking straight. You're likely more irritable. You're likely more likely to going to be annoyed because you're underslept. More irritable. And you're probably more stressed. You know, you might have been involved in something quite nasty, something quite awful, so more stressed. So you're already at a heightened state of emotion, meaning that anything you talk about here is probably going to be exasperated, which if that does happen and it doesn't go well, one person feels ignored. So one person feels ignored because the other person isn't able to speak to them properly, and the other person feels like someone's getting at them. So they feel attacked. And all it comes down to is it's the compounding effect of being underslept, being more irate and being stressed, which then causes increased emotion, which then makes, like I said, people feel ignored. The person who's got an issue to raise feels ignored because it's not being taken seriously. And the person who is being spoken to feels attacked because they're unable to rationalise their emotions properly, etc., because of being underslept. I was a nightmare to try and talk to. If I had like 2 hours sleep and I had a partner who wanted to speak to me or talk to me about something, I wasn't the best person to be around because, quite simply, I was too tired. I was too tired to handle what was being spoken about. So what I would advise is, if you can prioritise sleep and look after your sleep properly, then that makes this easier to actually have a conversation, because you're not necessarily coming from a place of being overworked and stressed and tired. So because you've already put in the groundwork and you've treated sleep properly, if you do have an issue and you can talk about it, then that means that you can air those issues and you can remove any kind of friction. So you're not needing to wait for issues to compound until somebody has a day off and then you go at them with like 5 or 6 things. So if we make sleep better, if we look after sleep properly, then that means communication while that person is working shifts is easier. If you feel that someone's been a bit distant and, you know, maybe you want to have a chat with them, maybe something is said, or you want to speak to them about something what's perhaps on your mind, then you know that we want to be able to do that, and we want to be able to do that in the best way possible, which means we need to make sure that we are respecting each other's rest time and rest period. So communication is a big one, because like I said, if they're not communicating with you and they've got stuff on their mind, they're probably going to communicate with someone else, and that can always be a bit of an issue at times, depending on respect and boundaries and all the other good stuff. So if we look after ourselves and we look after our energy levels, naturally then when we want to talk about issues in the relationship, we are more able to do that. And then there's the last thing here. There's a last thing which I want to talk about, just quite briefly. And that is, It's something quite important, and it ties all of these together. And this is the main one. This is the main one. You can get your sleep right, you can get your communication right, but if you don't have this third one, then we're going to really, really struggle. And this is the part that ties it all together. This is the part that ties everything together. And to be honest, if you have this, there is less emphasis on the first two, because this one is so much more important. If you imagine out of 100, the sleep could be 20%, communication could be 10%. This next one is 70. This is a big one. Okay? The next one, you guessed it, is connection. Is finding time for each other. You're both going to be like passing ships. Passing ships in the night. As you come in from work, your partner might be leaving. As you have a day off because of how your shift pattern falls, they may be in work. When you are in work, they may have an event which you can't attend. Birthdays, Christmases, special events. That means it's so important to actually make time for each other. Now, when we say make time for each other, we don't have to necessarily mean, let's go out shopping for 6 hours. Let's go to the movies. Let's go visit all of our friends in an afternoon. Because that causes stress, and that can cause strain on somebody and pressure on somebody who may have just been doing 5 or 6 night shifts in a row, hasn't slept properly, and has really dealt with some quite awful stuff. Again, it's about respecting your partner, respecting their energy levels, and respecting what potentially they have been dealing with. One thing, what I always say to people who've never worked shifts, and have never, like I said, in the emergency services, is they don't necessarily get it. And this is where other relationships can form with people who do get it. They don't get the nature of the work, they don't get the stress, they don't get the workloads, they don't get the job itself and the things you are accustomed to, the things what you are exposed to. So you have to respect your partner, and if your partner's had like maybe 1 or 2 hours sleep that day, saying to them, come on, let's stay up all night and go out and do this thing here, that's probably not going to make them feel great, because like I said, they're incredibly underslept. As a result of that, communication fails. As a result of that, you don't want to spend time with each other. So how can we spend time with each other and have connection if it doesn't mean spending a lot of time with each other? Well, what my partner used to do when I worked shifts was, before the shift, we'd maybe go for something to eat, maybe just a short walk, or we would go and grab a coffee together. Just it doesn't have to be anything expensive or explosive. It can be something very minor. And then after the shift, what was really nice was I'd come home and maybe she had written a little note to say, I hope you've had a good shift. There might be, a snack there, or a drink or something. So afterwards, you don't have to be there all the time. Sometimes it's just nice to know that the person was thinking of you. So just small acts of kindness, just small acts. Small acts. There's something really nice about walking in from a really tough nightmare shift at 4 or 5 in the morning, and then seeing that your partner, before they've gone to bed, have just left out a little note for you saying that how much they care about you and they really like you. Because we don't see each other that much because of shift work, you have to think outside the box a little bit. You have to be able to make time for each other even when you are passing ships. And then when you're not passing ships, when you are on a regular working shift pattern, then that's obviously much easier. And when you're off work, you can spend time with each other, providing, energy level and everything else is fine. But it all comes down to communication. It comes down to rest, recovery, communication, and like I said, small acts of kindness sometimes, thinking outside the box. And I feel that if you manage to get all these 3 things in, you manage to empathise, identify, communicate, support your partner, and make time for each other, I think you're going to do really, really well. And I think no matter what life throws at you, if you have a good solid foundation at home, then it doesn't matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Now, I hope you enjoyed that, and I wish you the absolute best. But having a strong relationship with a partner will only do so much. And frankly, if you are too burnt out to be able to even do your job, it's going to completely destroy everything in work and outside of work, which is why I recommend that you watch this video right here.